All right, we are finally getting back to our reading. Welcome back. This is our, well, we'll call it the 9th day of reading. Well, it is technically the 9th day of reading, because we did not get any reading done on Tuesday. So, this is our 9th day with Bram Stoker's Dracula. It's been about a week now, so I'm very sorry for that, but life tends to ambush us all. But things are under control, and I'm ready to get back to some semblance of routine. Exactly. Tuesday was just 8.5. And so far, the ISP agrees that, you know what, Fridays are just a better day than Tuesday. So we'll just run with it, right? Just roll with that. So, let's go ahead and get back to where we left off, which, as you may recall, or may not, it's been a while, is chapter 23 of Dracula. The hunt for the Count is well and truly underway. Mina is on the very edge of turning, and the stakes are as high as they come. We've got a little less than a quarter of the book left, so we probably have only about, probably 3 sessions left, I'd imagine, depending on how far we get. So, let's dive right in and see whether the gang is able to make any real progress, or whether the Count will be 1, 2, or more steps ahead of them. Chapter 23. Dr. Seward's Diary. 3rd of October. The time seemed terribly long whilst we were waiting for the coming of Godalming and Quincy Morris. The professor tried to keep our minds active by using them all the time. I could see his beneficent purpose by the side glances which he threw from time to time at Harker. The poor fellow is overwhelmed in a misery that is appalling to see. Last night he was a frank, happy-looking man, with strong, youthful face full of energy, with dark brown hair. Today he's a drawn, a haggard old man whose white hair matches well with the hollow, burning eyes and grief-written lines of his face. His energy is still intact. In fact, he is like a living flame. This may yet be his salvation, for if all go well, it will tide him over the despairing period. He will then, in a kind of way, wake again to the realities of life. Poor fellow. I thought my own trouble was bad enough, but his... The professor knows this well enough, and is doing his best to keep his mind active. What he has been saying was, under the circumstances, of absorbing interest. So well as I can remember, here it is. I have studied over and over again, since they came into my hands, all the papers relating to this monster, and the more I have studied, the greater seems the necessity to utterly stamp him out. All through there are signs of his advance, not only of his power, but of his knowledge of it, as I heard from the researches of my friend Arminius of Budapest. He was in life most wonderful man, soldier, statesman, and alchemist, which latter was the highest development of the science knowledge of his time. He had a mighty brain, a learning beyond compare, and a heart that knew no fear and no remorse. He dared even to attend the scholarments, and there was no branch of knowledge of his time that he did not essay. Well, in him, the brain powers survived the physical death, though it would seem that memory was not all complete. In some faculties of mind, he has been, and is, only a child. But he is growing, and some things that were childish at the first are now of man's stature. He is experimenting, and doing it well, and if it had not been that we have crossed his path, he would be yet He may be yet, if we fail, the father or furtherer of a new order of beings, whose road must lead through death, not life." Harker groaned and said, "And this is all arrayed against my darling. But how is he experimenting? The knowledge may help us to defeat him." "He has all along, since his coming, been trying his power, slowly but surely. That big child brain of his is working. Well, for us it is, as yet, a child brain. For, had he dared at the first to attempt certain things, he would long ago have been beyond our power. However, he means to succeed, and a man who has centuries before him can afford to wait and to go slow. Festina lente may well be his motto." "I fail to understand," said Harker wearily. "Oh, do be more plain to me. Perhaps grief and trouble are dulling my brain." The professor laid his hand tenderly on his shoulder as he spoke. "Ah, my child, I will be plain. Do you not see how, of late, this monster has been creeping into knowledge experimentally? How he has been making use of the zoophagous patient to effect his entry into friend John's home? For your vampire, though in all afterwards he can come when and how he will, must, at the first, make entry only when asked thereto by an inmate. But these are not his most important experiments. Do we not see how, at the first, all these so great boxes were moved by others? He knew not then, but that must be so. But all the time that so great child brain of his was growing, and he began to consider whether he might not himself move the box. So he began to help, and then, when he found that this be all right, he tried to move them all alone, and so he progress, and he scatter these graves of him, and none but he know where they are hidden. He may intend to bury them deep in the ground, so that he only use them in the night, or at such time as he can change his form. They do him equal well. And none may know these are his hiding place. But, my child, do not despair. This knowledge come to him just too late. Already, all of his lairs but one be sterilized as for him, and before the sunset this shall be so. Then he have no place where he can move and hide. I delayed this morning so that we might be sure. Is there not more at stake for us than for him? Then why we not be even more careful than him? By my clock, it is 1 hour, and already, if all be well, friend Arthur and friend Quincy are on their way to us. Today is our day, and we must go sure, if slow, and lose no chance. See, there are 5 of us, when those absent ones return." Whilst he was speaking, we were startled by a knock at the hall door. The double postman's knock of the telegraph boy. We all moved out to the hall with one impulse, and Von Helsing, holding up his hand to us to keep silence, stepped to the door and opened it. The boy handed in a dispatch. The professor closed the door again, and, after looking at the direction, opened it and read aloud. "Look out for D. He has just now, 12:45, come from Carfax hurriedly and hastened towards the south. He seems to be going the round and may want to see you. Mina." There was a pause, broken by Jonathan Harker's voice. "Now, God be thanked, we shall soon meet." Von Helsing turned to him quickly and said, "God will act his own way and time. Do not fear, and do not rejoice as yet, for what we wish for at the moment may be our undoings." "I care for nothing now," he answered hotly, "except to wipe out this brute from the face of creation. I'd sell my soul to do it." "Oh, hush, hush, my child," said Von Helsing. "God does not purchase souls in this wise, and the devil, though he may purchase, does not keep faith. But God is merciful and just, and knows your pain, and your devotion to that dear Madam Mina. Think you how her pain would be doubled did she but hear your wild words? Do not fear any of us. We are all devoted to this cause, and today shall see the end. The time is coming for action. Today, this vampire is limit to the powers of man, and till sunset, he may not change. It will take him time to arrive here. See, it is 20 minutes past 1, and there are yet some times before he can hither come. Be he never so quick. What we must hope for is that my Lord Arthur and Quincy arrive first." About half an hour after we had received Mrs. Harker's telegram, there came a quiet, resolute knock at the hall door. It was just an ordinary knock, such as is given hourly by thousands of gentlemen, but it made the professor's heart and mine beat loudly. We looked at each other, and together moved out into the hall. We each held ready to use our various armaments, the spiritual in the left hand, the mortal in the right. Von Helsing pulled back the latch, and holding the door half open, stood back, having both hands ready for action. The gladness of our hearts must have shone upon our faces when, on the step, close to the door, we saw Lord Godalming and Quincy Morris. They came quickly in and closed the door behind them. The former saying as they moved along the hall, "It is all right. We have found both places, 6 boxes in each, and we have destroyed them all." "Destroyed?" asked the professor. "For him." We were silent for a minute. Then Quincy said, "There's nothing to do but to wait here. If, however, he doesn't turn up by 5 o'clock, we must start off, for it won't do to leave Mrs. Harker alone after sunset." "He will be here before long now," said Von Helsing, who had been consulting his pocketbook. "Nota bene, in Madame's telegram he went south from Carfax. That means he went across the river, and he could only do so at slack of tide, which should be something before 1 o'clock. That he went south has a meaning for us. He is, as yet, only suspicious, and he went from Carfax first to the place where he would suspect interference least. You must have been at Bermondsey only a short time before him. That he is not here already shows that he went to Mile End next. This took him some time, but he would then have to be carried over the river in some way. Believe me, my friends, we shall not have long to wait now. We should have ready some plan of attack, so that we may throw away no chance. Hush! There is no time now. Have all your arms, be ready." He held up a warning hand as he spoke, for we all could hear a key softly inserted in the lock of the hall door. I could not but admire, even at such a moment, the way in which a dominant spirit asserted itself. In all our hunting parties and adventures in different parts of the world, Quincy Morris had always been the one to arrange the plan of action, and Arthur and I had been accustomed to obey him implicitly. Now, the old habit seemed to be renewed instinctively. With a swift glance around the room, he at once laid out our plan of attack, and, without speaking a word, with a gesture, placed us each in position. Von Helsing, Harker, and I were just behind the door, so that when it opened, the professor could guard it, whilst we two stepped between the incomer and the door. Godalming behind and Quincy in front stood just out of sight, ready to move in front of the window. We waited, in a suspense that made the seconds pass with nightmare slowness. The slow, careful steps came along the hall. The Count was evidently prepared for some surprise. At least, he feared it. Suddenly, with a single bound, he leaped into the room, winning way past us before any of us could raise a hand to stay him. There was something so panther-like in the movement, something so inhuman, that it seemed to sober us all from the shock of his coming. The first to act was Harker, who, with a quick movement, threw himself before the door leading into the room, in the front of the house. As the Count saw us, a horrible sort of snarl passed over his face, showing his eye teeth long and pointed. But the evil smile as quickly passed into a cold stare of lion-like disdain. His expression again changed as, with a single impulse, we all advanced upon him. It was a pity we had not some better organized plan of attack, for even at the moment I wondered what we were to do. I did not myself know whether our lethal weapons would avail us anything. Harker evidently meant to try the matter, for he had already his great kukri knife, and made a fierce and sudden cut at him. The blow was a powerful one. Only the diabolical quickness of the Count's leap back saved him. A second less, and the trenchant blade had shone through his heart. As it was, the point just cut the cloth of his coat, making a wide gap whence a bundle of banknotes and a stream of gold fell out. The expression of the Count's face was so hellish that for a moment I feared for Harker, though I saw him throw the terrible knife aloft again for another strike. Instinctively, I moved forward with a protective impulse, holding the crucifix and wafer in my left hand. I felt a mighty power fly along my arm, and it was without surprise that I saw the monster cower back before a similar movement made spontaneously by each one of us. It would be impossible to describe the expression of hate and baffled malignity, of anger and hellish rage which came over the Count's face. His waxen hue became greenish-yellow by the contrast of his burning eyes, and the red scar on his forehead showed on the pallid skin like a palpitating wound. The next instant, with a sinuous dive, he swept under Harker's arm ere his blow could fall, and, grasping a handful of the money from the floor, dashed across the room. Threw himself at the window. Amid the crash and glitter of the falling glass, he tumbled to the flagged area below. Through the sound of the shivering glass, I could hear the ting of the gold as some of the sovereigns fell on the flagging. We ran over and saw him spring unhurt from the ground. He, rushing up the steps, crossed the flagged yard and pushed open the stable door, where there he turned and spoke to us. You think to baffle me? You, with your pale faces all in a row, like sheep in a butcher's. You shall be sorry yet, each of you. You think you have left me without a place to rest, but I have more. My revenge is just begun. I spread it over centuries, and time is on my side. Your girls that you all love are mine already, and through them, you and others yet shall be mine. My creatures, to do my bidding and to be my jackals when I want to feed. Bah! With a contemptuous sneer, he passed quickly through the door, and we heard the rusty bolt creak as he fastened it behind him. A door beyond opened and shut. The first of us to speak was the professor, as, realizing the difficulty of following him through the stable, we moved toward the hall. "We have learned something, much. Notwithstanding his brave words, he fears us. He fear time. He fear want. For if not, why he hurry so? His very tone betray him, or my ears deceive. Why take that money? You follow quick, you are hunters of wild beast, and understand it so. For me, I make sure that nothing here may be of use to him, if so that he return." As he spoke, he put the money remaining into his pocket. He took the title deeds in the bundle as Harker had left them, and swept the remaining things into the open fireplace, where he set fire to them with a match. Godalming and Morris had rushed out into the yard, and Harker had lowered himself from the window to follow the Count. He had, however, bolted the stable door, and by the time they had forced it open, there was no sign of him. Von Helsing and I tried to make inquiry at the back of the house, but the mews was deserted, and no one had seen him depart. It was now late in the afternoon, and sunset was not far off. We had to recognize that our game was up. With heavy hearts, we agreed with the professor when he said, "Let us go back to Madam Mina. Poor dear Madam Mina. All we can do just now is done. And we can there, at least, protect her. But we need not despair. There is but one more earth box, and we must try to find it. When that is done, all may yet be well." I could see that he spoke as bravely as he could to comfort Harker. The poor fellow was quite broken down. Now and again he gave a low groan which he could not suppress. He was thinking of his wife. With sad hearts we came back to my house, where we found Mrs. Harker waiting us, with an appearance of cheerfulness which did honor to her bravery and unselfishness. When she saw our faces, her own became as pale as death. For a second or two her eyes were closed, as if she were in secret prayer. And then she said cheerfully, "I can never thank you all enough. Oh, my poor darling." As she spoke, she took her husband's gray head in her hands and kissed it. "Lay your poor head here and rest it. All will yet be well, dear. God will protect us, if he so will it in his good intent." The poor fellow groaned. There was no place for words in his sublime misery. We had a sort of perfunctory supper together, and I think it cheered us all up somewhat. It was, perhaps, the mere animal heat of food to hungry people. For none of us had eaten anything since breakfast, or the sense of companionship may have helped us. But anyhow, we were all less miserable, and saw the morrow as not altogether without hope. True to our promise, we told Mrs. Harker everything which had passed, and, although she grew snowy white at times when danger had seemed to threaten her husband, and red at others when his devotion to her was manifested, she listened bravely and with calmness. When we came to the part where Harker had rushed at the Count so recklessly, she clung to her husband's arm and held it tight, as though her clinging could protect him from any harm that might come. She said nothing, however, till the narration was all done, and matters had been brought right up to the present time. Then, without letting go her husband's hand, she stood up amongst us and spoke. Oh, that I could give any idea of the scene, that sweet, Sweet, good woman, in all the radiant beauty of her youth and animation, with the red scar on her forehead, of which she was conscious, and which we saw with grinding of our teeth, remembering whence and how it came, her loving kindness against our grim hate, her tender faith against all our fears and doubting, and we, knowing that so far as symbols went, she, with all her goodness and purity and faith, was outcast from God. "Jonathan," she said, and the words sounded like music on her lips. They were so full of love and tenderness. "Jonathan, dear, and you, all my true friends, I want you to bear something in mind through all this dreadful time. I know that you must fight, that you must destroy, even as you destroyed the false Lucy, so that the true Lucy might live hereafter. But it is not a work of hate. That poor soul, who has wrought all this misery, is the saddest case of all. Just think what will be his joy when he too is destroyed in his worser part, that his better part may have spiritual immortality. You must be pitiful to him too, though it may not hold your hands from his destruction." As she spoke, I could see her husband's face darken and draw together, as though the passion in him were shriveling his being to the core. Instinctively, the clasp on his wife's hand grew closer, till his knuckles looked white. She did not flinch from the pain which I knew she must have suffered, but looked at him with eyes that were more appealing than ever. As she stopped speaking, he leaped to his feet, almost tearing his hand from hers as he spoke. "May God give him into my hand just for long enough to destroy that earthly life of him which we are aiming at. If, beyond it, I could send his soul forever and ever to burning hell, I would do it." "Oh, hush, hush! In the name of the good God, don't say such things, Jonathan, my husband, or you will crush me with fear and horror. Just think, my dear, I have been thinking all this long day of it, that perhaps, some day, I, too, may need such pity, and that some other like you, and with equal cause for anger, may deny it to me. Oh, my husband, I would have spared you such a thought, had there been another way. But I pray that God may not have treasured your wild words, except as the heartbroken wail of a very loving and sorely stricken man. Oh God, let these poor white hairs go in evidence of what he has suffered, who all his life has done no wrong, and on whom so many sorrows have come." We men were all in tears now. There was no resisting them, and we wept openly. She wept too, to see that her sweeter counsels had prevailed. Her husband flung himself on his knees beside her, and, putting his arms round her, hid his face in the folds of her dress. Von Helsing beckoned to us, and we stole out of the room, leaving the two loving hearts alone with their God. Before they retired, the professor fixed up the room against any coming of the vampire, and assured Mrs. Harker that she might rest in peace. She tried to school herself to the belief, and, manifestly, for her husband's sake, tried to seem content. It was a brave struggle, and was, I think and believe, not without its reward. Von Helsing had placed at hand a bell, which either of them was to sound in case of any emergency. When they had retired, Quincy, Godalming, and I arranged that we should sit up, dividing the night between us, and watch over the safety of the poor stricken lady. The first watch falls to Quincy, so the rest of us shall be off to bed as soon as we can. Godalming has already turned in, for his is the second watch. Now that my work is done, I, too, shall go to bed. Jonathan Harker's Journal, 3rd to 4th October. close to midnight. I thought yesterday would never end. There was over me a yearning for sleep, in some sort of blind belief that to wake would be to find things changed, and that any change must now be for the better. Before we parted, we discussed what our next step was to be. But we could arrive at no result. All we knew was that one earth box remained, and that the Count alone knew where it was. I dare not think of it even now. This I know, that if ever there was a woman who was all perfection, that one is my poor, wronged darling. I love her 1,000 times more for her sweet pity of last night, a pity that made my own hate of the monster seem despicable. Surely God will not permit the world to be the poorer by the loss of such a creature. This is hope to me. We are all drifting reefwards now, and faith is our only anchor. Thank God. Mina is sleeping, and sleeping without dreams. I fear what her dreams might be like. Such terrible memories to ground them in. She has not been so calm within my seeing since the sunset. Then, for a while, there came over her face a repose, which was like spring after the blasts of March. I thought at the time that it was the softness of the red sunset on her face, but somehow now I think it has a deeper meaning. I am not sleepy myself, though I am weary to death. However, I must try to sleep, for there is tomorrow to think of, and there is no rest for me until... Later, I must have fallen asleep, for I was awakened by Mina, who was sitting up in bed, with a startled look on her face. I could see easily, for we did not leave the room in darkness. She had placed a warning hand over my mouth, and now she whispered in my ear, "Hush, there's someone in the corridor." I got up softly, and crossing the room, gently opened the door. Just outside, stretched on a mattress, lay Mr. Morris, wide awake. He raised a warning hand for silence as he whispered to me, "Hush, go back to bed. It is all right. One of us will be here all night. We don't mean to take any chances." His look and gesture forbade discussion, so I went back and told Mina. She sighed, and positively a shadow of a smile stole over her poor, pale face as she put her arms round me and said softly, "Oh, thank God for good, brave men." With a sigh, she sank back again to sleep. I write this now, as I am not sleepy, though I must try again. 4th of October, morning. Once again, during the night, I was wakened by Mina. This time we had all had a good sleep, for the gray of the coming dawn was making the windows into sharp oblongs, and the gas flame was like a speck rather than a disk of light. She said to me hurriedly, "Go, call the professor. I want to see him at once." "Why?" I asked. "I have an idea. I suppose it must have come in the night, and matured without my knowing it. He must hypnotize me before the dawn, and then I shall be able to speak. Go quick, dearest. The time is getting close." I went to the door. Dr. Seward was resting on the mattress, and, seeing me, he sprang to his feet. "Is anything wrong?" he asked in alarm. "No," I replied, "but Mina wants to see Dr. Van Helsing at once." "I will go," he said, and hurried into the professor's room. In 2 or 3 minutes later, Van Helsing was in the room in his dressing gown, and Mr. Morris and Lord Godalming were with Dr. Seward at the door, asking questions. When the professor saw Mina's smile, positive smile, ousted the anxiety of his face. He rubbed his hands and said, "Oh, my dear Madam Mina, this is indeed a change. See, friend Jonathan, we have got our dear Madam Mina, as of old, back to us today." Then, turning to her, he said cheerfully, "And what am I to do for you? For, at this hour, you do not want me for nothings." "I want you to hypnotize me," she said. "Do it before the dawn, for I feel that then I can speak. and speak freely. Be quick, for the time is short." Without a word, he motioned her to sit up in bed. Looking fixedly at her, he commenced to make passes in front of her, from over the top of her head downward, with each hand in turn. Mina gazed at him fixedly for a few minutes, during which my own heart beat like a trip hammer, for I felt that some crisis was at hand. Gradually, her eyes closed, and she sat, stock still. Only by the gentle heaving of her bosom could one know that she was alive. The professor made a few more passes, and then stopped, and I could see that his forehead was covered with great beads of perspiration. Mina opened her eyes, but she did not seem the same woman. There was a faraway look in her eyes, and her voice had a sad dreaminess which was new to me. Raising his hand to impose silence, the professor motioned to me to bring the others in. They came on tiptoe, closing the door behind them, and stood at the front of the bed, looking on. Mina appeared not to see them. The stillness was broken by Van Helsing's voice, speaking in a low, level tone which would not break the current of her thoughts. "Where are you?" The answer came in a neutral way. "I do not know. Sleep has no place it can call its own." For several minutes there was silence. Mina sat rigid, and the professor stood staring at her fixedly. The rest of us hardly dared to breathe. The room was growing lighter. Without taking his eyes from Mina's face, Dr. Van Helsing motioned me to pull up the blind. I did so, and the day seemed to just upon us. A red streak shot up, and a rosy light seemed to diffuse itself through the room. On the instant, the professor spoke again. "Where are you now?" The answer came dreamily, but with intention. It were as though she were interpreting something. I've heard her use the same tone when reading her shorthand notes. "I do not know. It is all strange to me." "What do you see?" "I can see nothing. It is all dark." "What do you hear?" I could detect the strain in the professor's patient voice. "The lapping of water. It is gurgling by, and little waves lap. I can hear them on the outside." "Then you are on a ship." We all looked at each other, trying to glean something, each from the other. We were afraid to think. The answer came quick. "Oh, yes." "What else do you hear?" "The sound of men stamping overhead as they run about. There is the creaking of a chain, and a loud tinkle as the check of the capstan falls into the ratchet." "What are you doing?" "I am still. Oh, so still. It is like death." The voice faded away into a deep breath as of one sleeping, and the open eyes closed again. By this time the sun had risen, and we were all in the full light of day. Dr. Van Helsing placed his hands upon Mina's shoulders and laid her down softly on her pillow. She lay like a sleeping child for a few moments, and then, with a long sigh, awoke and stared in wonder to see us all around her. "Have I been talking in my sleep?" was all she said. She seemed, however, to know the situation without telling, though she was eager to know what she had told. The professor repeated the conversation, and she said, "Then there is not a moment to lose. It may not yet be too late." Mr. Morris and Mr. Godalming started for the door, but the professor's calm voice called them back. "Stay, my friends. That ship, wherever it was weighing anchor whilst she spoke. There are many ships weighing anchor at the moment in your so great port of London. Which of them is it that you seek? God be thanked that we have once again a clue, though whither it may lead us we know not. We have been blind somewhat, blind after the manner of men, since when we can look back, we see what we might have seen looking forward, if we had been able to see what we might have seen. Alas, but that sentence is a puddle, is it not? It is. We can know now what was in the Count's mind when he seized that money, though Jonathan's so fierce knife put him in the danger that even he dread. He meant escape. Hear me, escape! He saw that with but one earth box left, and a pack of men following like dogs after a fox, this London was no place for him. He have take his last earth box on board a ship, and he leave the land. He think to escape, but no, we follow him. Tally-ho, as friend Arthur would say when he put on his red frock. Our old fox is wily, oh, it's so wily, and we must follow with wile too. I too am wily, and I think his mind in a little while. In meantime, we may rest and in peace, for there are waters between us which he do not want to pass, and which he could not, if he would, unless the ship were to touch the land, and then only at full or slack tide. See, and the sun is just arose, and all day to sunset is to us. Let us take bath and dress and have breakfast, which we all need, and which we can eat comfortably, since he be not in the same land with us. Mina looked at him appealingly, as she said, "But why need we seek him further, when he has gone away from us?" He took her hand and patted it, as he replied, "Ask me nothings as yet. We have breakfast. Then I shall answer all questions." He would say no more, and we separated to dress. After breakfast, Mina repeated her question. He looked at her gravely for a minute, and then said sorrowfully, "Because, my dear Madam Mina, now, more than ever, we must find him, even if we have to follow him to the jaws of hell." She grew paler, as she asked faintly, "Why?" "Because," he answered solemnly, "he can live for centuries, and you are but a mortal woman. Time is now to be dreaded, since once he put that mark upon your throat." I was just in time to catch her as she fell forward in a faint. That brings us to the end of chapter 23. Let's see, actually, I need to get a chapter count for what we've got left. Okay, so there are 27 chapters in total. That's kind of awkward, honestly. Trying to work out what the best way to split up the remaining chapters will be. We can... I guess a lot of it depends on if the last chapter is resolution or climax. Because if the last chapter is climax and resolution both, then we can have a short reading of the last chapter in one day, and then let it sink in. But if it's just resolution, that's not really very fun, is it? Do we roll the dice? In any case, we'll probably just get one more chapter in tonight. It does have an epilogue. Okay. Well, I'm not sure if... So looking at this, let me set a bookmark here. Because there's, in the table of contents, there's a chapter 27, and then just a note. Yeah, and the note is literally just a half a page. So I'm not sure whether that will be... Hang on. Just skimming over the last chapter here and seeing if it's going to look like something that is... Oh, you know what? I think the last chapter might be a good climax. Just a few more looks. Okay, yeah. So I think that is probably our best plan here. We will go ahead and do one good chapter on... So we'll have our last reading be just the last chapter and the note, the epilogue. So that will be... So that's chapter 27 and the note. And we just finished 23. So we'll get one more chapter in tonight, and then we'll get 2 chapters in tomorrow, and then we'll plan for Sunday to be the finish. I think that's our plan of action. So we'll probably have a short-ish reading. Actually, all 3 of these will probably be a little on the shorter side, because we typically will, for these chapters, get about 2.5. Well, we usually get 3 per night. So it'll be a little bit shorter each night this weekend. But I think the pacing will be perfect that way. We don't need to run long on any of them and can really enjoy the big finish that we're building up to. Because I have a feeling each of these last few chapters are going to be very important. So that's going to be our game plan. Let me go back to that bookmark. Yeah, exactly. We can yap a little extra or just be extra dramatic or whatever the needs may be. We've got all sorts of options and all sorts of time to play with. So, with that little bit of planning and organization out of the way, let's go ahead and take a few minutes of break. Grab yourself a drink, stretch your legs, and we'll be back in just a few minutes where we'll get our second chapter of the night. Chapter 24. Alright, be back in just a bit. All right, we are back. Let me just make a quick update here because it's been a long week. And you know what? I'm not feeling coffee right now. There we go. Have a little bit more fun tonight. And that does hit just right. So yeah, it's nice to finally get back to a little bit of routine. I am very glad to be having a sense of normal. It's been between the wedding last week and everything since. Good Lord. It feels like a month of Sundays packed into, what was it? It was 9 days since we had our last proper stream. 9 or 10. So it is good to just settle in. Yeah. Appreciate it. So, with a good drink in hand and a good book before us, let's go ahead and jump back in where we left off. We've got one more chapter to get through tonight. We're going to take it nice and slow for tonight and tomorrow. And then on Sunday, we'll close things up with the final chapter. So we have a very short downhill rush before us now. And hopefully, we'll keep up this energy as we go on. Because I have a feeling that every single one of these chapters that we have before us is going to be something of a doozy. And yet that is as good a toast as I've seen for a while. May things be precedented. May you live in boring times. Hear, hear. Okay. Chapter 24. Dr. Seward's Phonograph Diary. Spoken by Von Helsing. This to Jonathan Harker. You are to stay with your dear Madam Mina. We shall go to make our search, if I can call it so, for it is not search, but knowing, and we seek confirmation only. But do you stay and take care of her today? This is your best and most holiest office. This day, nothing can find him here. Let me tell you that, so you will know what we foreknow already, for I have tell them, he, our enemy, have gone away. He have gone back to his castle in Transylvania. I know it so well, as if a great hand of fire wrote it on the wall. He have prepared for this in some way, and that last earth box was ready to ship somewheres. For this he took the money. For this he hurry at the last, lest we catch him before the sun go down. It was his last hope, save that he might hide in the tomb. And he think poor Miss Lucy, being as he thought like him, keep open to him. But there was not of time. When that fail, he makes straight for his last resource, his last earthwork. I might say, did I wish double entente. He is clever, oh, so clever. He know that his game here was finish, and so he decide to go back home. He find ship going by the route he came, and he go in it. We go off now to find what ship and whither bound. When we have discovered that, we come back and tell you all. Then we will comfort you, and poor Madam Mina with new hope. For it will be hope, when you think it over, that all is not lost. This very creature that we pursue, he take hundreds of years to get so far as London, and yet, in one day, when we know of the disposal of him, we drive him out. He is finite, though he is powerful to do much harm and suffers not as we do. But we are strong, each in our purpose, and we are all more strong together. Take heart afresh, dear husband of Madam Mina. This battle is but begun, and in the end, we shall win, so sure as that God sits on high to watch over his children. Therefore, be of much comfort till we return. Van Helsing. Jonathan Harker's Journal, 4th of October. When I read to Mina Van Helsing's message in the phonograph, the poor girl brightened up considerably. Already, the certainty that the Count is out of the country has given her comfort, and comfort is strength to her. For my own part, now that his horrible danger is not face to face with us, it seems almost impossible to believe in it. Even my own terrible experiences in Castle Dracula seem like a long-forgotten dream. Here, in the crisp autumn air, in the bright sunlight, alas, how can I disbelieve? In the midst of my thought, my eye fell on the red scar on my poor darling's white forehead. While that lasts, there can be no disbelief. And afterwards, the very memory of it will keep faith crystal clear. Mina and I fear to be idle. So we have been over all the diaries again and again. Somehow, although the reality seems greater each time, the pain and the fear seem less. There is something of a guiding purpose manifest throughout, which is comforting. Mina says that perhaps we are the instruments of ultimate good. It may be. I shall try to think as she does. We have never spoken to each other yet of the future. It is better to wait till we see the professor and the others after their investigations. The day is running by more quickly than I ever thought a day could run for me. Again. It is now 3 o'clock. Mina Harker's Journal. 5th October, 5 p.m. Our meeting for report. Present, Professor Van Helsing, Lord Godalming, Dr. Seward, Mr. Quincy Morris, Jonathan Harker, Mina Harker. Dr. Van Helsing described what steps were taken during the day to discover on what boat and whither bound Count Dracula made his escape. As I knew that he wanted to get back to Transylvania, I felt sure that he must go by the Danube mouth, or by somewhere in the Black Sea, since by that way he come. It was a dreary blank that was before us. Omne ignotum pro magnifico. And so, with heavy hearts, we start to find what ships leave for the Black Sea last night. He was in sailing ship, since Madam Mina tell of sails being set. These, not so important as to go in your list of the shopping in the Times, of the shipping in the Times. And so we go, by suggestion of Lord Godalming, to your Lloyd's, where are note of all ships that sail, however so small. There we find that only one Black Sea-bound ship go out with the tide. She is the Tsarina Catherine, and she sailed from Doolittle's Wharf for Varna, and thence on to other parts, and up the Danube. So, said I, this is the ship whereon is the Count. And so off we go to Doolittle's wharf, and there we find a man in an office of wood, so small that the man looked bigger than the office. From him we inquire of the goings of the Tsarina Catherine. He sware much, and he red face and loud of voice, but he good fellow all the same. And when Quincy give him something from his pocket, which crackle as he roll it up, and put it in so small bag which he have hid deep in his clothing, he still better fellow, and humble servant to us. He come with us, and ask many men who are rough and hot. These be better fellows too, when they have been no more thirsty. They say much of blood and bloom, and of others which I comprehend not, though I guess what they mean. But nevertheless, they tell us all things which we want to know. They make known to us among them how, last afternoon, and about 5 o'clock, comes a man so hurry, a tall man, thin and pale, with a high nose and teeth so white, and eyes that seem to be burning, and he be all in black, except that he have a hat of straw, which suit not him or the time, that he scatter his money in making quick inquiry as to what ship sails for the Black Sea, and for where. Some took him to the office, and then to the ship, where he will not go aboard, but halt at shore end of gangplank, and ask that the captain come to him. The captain come, when told that he will be pay well, and though he swear much at the first, he agreed to term. Then the thin man go, and someone tell him where horse and cart can be hired. He go there, and soon come again, himself driving cart on which a great box. This he himself lift down, though it takes several to put it on truck for the ship. He give much talk to captain as to how and where his box is to be placed. But the captain like it not, and swear at him in many tongues, and tell him that if he like, he can come and see where it shall be. But he say no, that he have come none yet, for that he have much to do. Whereupon the captain tell him that he had better be quick with blood, for that his ship will leave the place of blood before the turn of the tide with blood. Then the thin man smile, and say that of course he must go when he think fit, but he will be surprised if he go quite so soon. The captain swear again, polyglot, and the thin man make him bow and thank him, and say that he will so far intrude on his kindness as to come aboard before the sailing. Final, the captain, more red than ever, and in more tongues tell him that he doesn't want no Frenchmen with bloom upon them, and also with blood in his ship, with blood on her also. And so, after asking where there might be close at hand a ship where he might purchase ship forms, he departed. No one knew where he went, or bloomin' well cared, as they said, for they had something else to think of. Well, with blood again, for it soon became apparent to all that the Tsarina Catherine would not sail, as was expected. A thin mist began to creep up from the river, and it grew and grew, till soon a dense fog enveloped the ship, and all around her. The captain swore polyglot, very polyglot, polyglot with bloom and blood, but he could do nothing. The water rose and rose, and he began to fear that he would lose the tide altogether. He was in no friendly mood when, just at full tide, the thin man came up the gangplank again, and asked to see where his box had been stowed. Then the captain replied that he wished that he and his box, old and with much bloom and blood, were in hell. But the thin man, did not be offend, and went down with the mate and saw where it was placed, and came up and stood a while on deck in fog. He must have come off by himself, for none noticed him. Indeed, they thought not of him. For soon the fog began to melt away, and all was clear again. My friends of the thirst and the language that was of bloom and blood laughed, as they told how the captain's swears exceeded even his usual polyglot. It was more than ever full of picturesque, when, on questioning other mariners who were on movement up and down on the river that hour, he found that few of them had seen any of fog at all, except where it lay round the wharf. However, the ship went out on the ebb tide, and was doubtless by morning far down the river mouth. She was by then, when they told us, well out to sea. And so, my dear Madamina, it is that we have to rest for a time, for our enemy is on the sea, with the fog at his command, on his way to the Danube mouth. To sail a ship takes time, go she never so quick, and when we start, we go on land more quick, and we meet him there. Our best hope is to come on him when in the box, between sunrise and sunset, for then he can make no struggle, and we may deal with him as we should. There are days for us in which we can make ready our plan. We know all about where he go, for we have seen the owner of the ship, who have shown us invoices and all papers that can be. The box we seek is to be landed in Varna, and to be given to an agent, one Ristix, who will there present his credentials. And so our merchant friend will have done his part. When he asks if there be any wrong, for that so he can telegraph and have inquiry made at Varna. We say no. What is to be done is not for police or of the customs. It must be done by us alone, and in our own way. When Dr. Van Helsing had done speaking, I asked him if he were certain that the Count had remained on board the ship. He replied, "We have the best proof of that, your own evidence. When in hypnotic trance this morning, I asked him again if it were really necessary that they should pursue the Count, for oh, I dread Jonathan leaving me, and I know that he would surely go if others went." He answered in growing passion. That's not quote. Sorry. He answered in growing passion, at first quietly. As he went on, however, he grew more angry and more forceful, till, in the end, we could not but see wherein was at least some of that personal dominance which made him so long a master amongst men. Yes, it is necessary, for your sake in the first, and then for the sake of humanity. This monster has done much harm already. It's a lot of Helsing. It's very easy to get stuck in this one. In the narrow scope where he find himself, and in the short time when, as yet, he was only as a body groping so small measure in darkness, and not knowing. All this have I told these others. You, my dear Madam Mina, will learn it in the phonograph of my friend John, or in that of your husband. I have told them how the measure of leaving his own barren land, barren of peoples, and coming to a new land, where life of men teems, till they are like the multitude of standing corn, was the work of centuries. Were another of the undead like him to try to do what he has done, perhaps not all the centuries of the world that have been, or that will be, could aid him. With this one, all the forces of nature that are occult and deep and strong must have worked together in some wondrous way. The very place where he have been alive, undead, for all these centuries, is full of strangeness of the geologic and chemical world. There are deep caverns and fissures that reach none know whither. There have been volcanoes, some of whose openings still send out waters of strange properties, and gases that kill or make to vivify. Doubtless there is something magnetic or electric in some of these combinations of occult forces which work for physical life in strange way, and in himself were from the first some great quantities. In a hard and warlike time he was celebrate that he have more iron nerve, more subtle brain, more braver heart than any man. In him some vital principle have in strange way found their utmost, and as his body keeps strong and grow and thrive, so his brain grow too. All this without that diabolic aid which is surely to him, or it have to yield to the powers that come from and are symbolic of good. And now this is what he is to us. He have infect you. Oh, forgive me, my dear, that I must say such, but it is for good of you that I speak. He infect you in such wise that even if he do no more, you have only to live in your own old sweet way, and so, in time, death, which is of man's common lot, and with God's sanction, shall make you like to him. This must not be. We have sworn together that it must not. Thus are we ministers of God's own wish, that the world and men for whom his Son die will not be given over to monsters whose very existence would defame him. He have allowed us to redeem one soul already, and we go out as the old Knights of the Cross to redeem more. Like them, we shall travel towards the sunrise, and like them, if we fall in good cause.
He paused, and I said, "But will not the Count take his rebuff wisely? Since he has been driven from England, will he not avoid it, as a tiger does the village from which he has been hunted?"
"Aha!" he said. "Your simile of the tiger good for me, and I shall adopt him. Your man-eater, as they of India call the tiger, who has once tasted blood of the human, care no more for the other prey, but prowl unceasing till he get him. This that we hunt from our village is a tiger too, a man-eater, and he never ceased to prowl. Nay, in himself he is not one to retire and stay afar. In his life, his living life,
he go over the Turkey frontier and attack his enemy on his own ground. He be beaten back, but did he stay? No! He come again, and again, and again. Look at his persistence and endurance. With the child brain that was to him, he have long since conceived the idea of coming to a great city. What does he do? He find out the place of all the world most of promise for him. Then he deliberately set himself down to prepare for the task. He find in patience just how is his strength and what are his powers. He study new tongues. He learn new social life, new environment of old ways, the politic, the law, the finance, the science, the habit of a new land and a new people who have come to be since he was. His glimpse that he have had whet his appetite only, and keen his desire. Nay, it helped him to grow as to his brain, for it all proved to him how right he was at the first in his surmises. He have done this alone, all alone, from a ruined tomb in a forgotten land. What more may he not do when the greater world of thought is open to him? He that can smile at death as we know him, who can flourish in the midst of diseases that kill off whole peoples. Oh, if such an one was to come from God, and not the devil, what a force for good might he not be in this old world of ours? But we are pledged to set the world free. Our toil must be in silence, and our efforts all in secret. For in this enlightened age, when men believe not even what they see, the doubting of wise men would be his greatest strength. It would be at once his sheath and his armor, his weapons to destroy us, his enemies, who are willing to peril even our own souls, the safety of one we love, for the good of mankind, and for the honor and glory of God.
All right, calm down, Doc. That is a lot.
After a general discussion, it was determined that for tonight, nothing be definitely settled, that we should all sleep on the facts, and try to think out the proper conclusions. Tomorrow, at breakfast, we are to meet again, and, after making our conclusions known to one another, we shall decide on some definite cause of action. I feel a wonderful peace and rest tonight. It is as if some haunting presence were removed from me. Perhaps my surmise was not finished. Could not be, for I caught sight in the mirror of the red mark upon my forehead, and I knew that it was still unclean.
Van Helsing is definitely crushing on them both, but it is definitely one of the weirdest things I've ever considered, that Dracula has a child's mind. Like, upon death and rebirth as a vampire, he sort of reverted back to a childlike mind and had to redevelop over the centuries. That, I'd never heard that take, but it makes sense. But the way it's going on is just, it's like incongruous to my idea of Dracula, you know? But it does make sense. It's just wrong. Just wrong. But yes, Van Helsing definitely has certain impassioned ideas about the both of them. Shift of character perspective. So, here's a more comfortable voice. Dr. Seward's diary. 5th of October. We all rose early, and I think that sleep did much for each and all of us. When we met at early breakfast, there was more general cheerfulness than any of us had ever expected to experience again. It is really wonderful how much resilience there is in human nature. Let any obstructing cause, no matter what, be removed in any way, even by death, and we fly back to first principles of hope and enjoyment. More than once, as we sat around the table, my eyes opened in wonder whether the whole of the past days had not been a dream. It was only when I caught sight of the red blotch on Mrs. Harker's forehead that I was brought back to reality. Even now, when I am gravely revolving the matter, it is almost impossible to realize that the cause of all our trouble is still existent. Even Mrs. Harker seems to lose sight of her trouble for whole spells. It is only now and again, when something recalls it to her mind, that she thinks of her terrible scar. We are to meet here, in my study, in half an hour and decide on our course of action. I see only one immediate difficulty. I know it by instinct, rather than reason. We shall all have to speak frankly. And yet, I fear that, in some mysterious way, poor Mrs. Harker's tongue is tied. I know that she forms conclusions of her own, and from all that has been, I can guess how brilliant and how true they must be. But she will not, or cannot, give them utterance. I have mentioned this to Van Helsing, and he and I are to talk it over when we are alone. I suppose it is some of that horrid poison which has got into her veins beginning to work. The Count has his own purposes when he gave her what Van Helsing called the vampire's baptism of blood. Well, there may be a poison that distills itself out of good things, in an age when the existence of Tomaines is a mystery. We should not wonder at anything. One thing I know, that if my instinct be true regarding poor Mrs. Harker's silences, then there is a terrible difficulty, an unknown danger in the work before us. The same power that compels her silence may compel her speech. I dare not think further, for so I should, in my thoughts, dishonor a noble woman. Van Helsing is coming to my study, a little before the others. I shall try to open the subject with him. Later. When the professor came in, we talked over the state of things. I could see that he had something on his mind, which he wanted to say, but felt some hesitancy about broaching the subject. After beating about the bush a little, he said suddenly, "Friend John, there is something that you and I must talk of alone. Just at the first, at any rate. Later, we may have to take the others into our confidence." Then he stopped, so I waited. He went on. "Madam Mina, our poor dear Madam Mina, is changing." A cold shiver ran through me to find my worst fears thus endorsed. Van Helsing continued. "With the sad experience of Miss Lucy, we must this time be warned before things go too far. Our task is now, in reality, more difficult than ever, and this new trouble makes every hour of the direst importance. I can see the characteristics of the vampire coming in her face. It is now but very, very slight, but it is to be seen if we have eyes to notice without to prejudge. Her teeth are some sharper, and at times her eyes are more hard. But these are not all. There is to her the silence, now often, as so it was with Miss Lucy. She did not speak, even when she wrote that which she wished to be known later. Now, my fear is this. If it can be that she can, by our hypnotic trance, tell what the Count see and hear, is it not more true that he, who have hypnotized her first, and who have drunk of her very blood, and make her drink of his, should, if he will, compel her mind to disclose to him that which she know? I nodded acquiescence. He went on, Then, what we must do is to prevent this. We must keep her ignorant of our intent, and so she cannot tell what she not know. This is a painful task, oh, so painful, that it heartbreak me to think of, but it must be. When today we meet, I must tell her that for reason which we will not speak, she must not be more of our counsel, but be simply guarded by us. He wiped his forehead, which had broken out in profuse perspiration, at the thought of the pain which she might have to inflict upon the poor soul already so tortured. I knew that it would be some sort of comfort to him if I told him that I also had come to the same conclusion, for at any rate, it would take away the pain of doubt. I told him, and the effect was as I expected. It is now close to the time of our general gathering. Von Helsing has gone away to prepare for the meeting, and his painful part of it. I really believe his purpose is to be able to pray alone. Later, well, before we transition to the later part, this is oddly reminiscent of how they got into all this trouble, by keeping Mina out of the loop. This time I feel like it's a little bit more likely to go well for them, considering this is a little less manly, grander, ho ho ho, we'll take care of you, keep you out of things, and more, okay, there's a general threat that you might be an unwitting spy. So, this is hopefully a good reflection of the previous terrible decision. We'll see. We'll see. Later, at the very outset of our meeting, a great personal relief was experienced by both Von Helsing and myself. Mrs. Harker had sent a message by her husband to say she would not join us at present, as she thought it better that we should be free to discuss our movements without her presence to embarrass us. The professor and I looked at each other for an instant, and somehow we both seemed relieved. For my own part, I thought that if Mrs. Harker realized the danger herself, it was much pain as well as much danger averted. Under the circumstances, we agreed, by a questioning look and answer, with finger on lip, to preserve silence in our suspicions, until we should have been able to confer alone again. We went at once into our plan of campaign. Von Helsing roughly put the facts before us first. The Tsarina Catherine left the Thames yesterday morning. It will take her at the quickest speed she has ever made at least 3 weeks to reach Varna, but we can travel overland to the same place in 3 days. Now, if we allow for 2 days less for ship's voyage, owing to such weather influences we know that the Count can bring to bear, and if we allow a whole day and night for any delays which may occur to us, then we have a margin of nearly 2 weeks. Thus, in order to be quite safe, we must leave here on the 17th at latest. Then we shall, at any rate, be in Varna a day before the ship arrives, and be able to make such preparations as may be necessary. Of course, we shall all go armed against evil things, spiritual as well as physical.
Here, Quincy Morris added, I'll understand that Count comes from wolf country, and it may be that he shall get there before us. I propose that we add Winchesters to our armament. I have a kind of belief in a Winchester when there is any trouble of that sort around. Do you remember, Art, when we had the pack after us in Tobolsk? What wouldn't we have given then for a repeater apiece? Ah, yes. A Winchester to hunt things that go bump in the night. Some things come full circle.
Good, said Van Helsing. Winchesters it shall be. Quincy's head is level at all times, but most so when there is to hunt. Metaphor be more dishonor to science than wolves be of danger to man. In the meantime, we can do nothing here, and as I think that Varna is not familiar to any of us, why not go there more soon? It is as long to wait here as there. Tonight and tomorrow we can get ready, and then, if all be well, we four can set out on our journey.
We four? Said Harker interrogatively, looking from one to another of us.
Of course, answered the professor quickly. You must remain to take care of your so sweet wife.
Harker was silent for a while, and then said, in a hollow voice, Let us talk of that in the morning. I want to consult with Mina. I thought that now was the time for Van Helsing to warn him not to disclose our plans to her. But he took no notice. I looked at him significantly and coughed. For answer, he put his finger on his lips and turned away. Jonathan Harker's Journal. 5th of October, afternoon. For some time after our meeting this morning, I could not think. The new phases of things leave my mind in a state of wonder, which allows no room for active thought. Mina's determination not to take any part in the discussion set me thinking. And, as I could not argue the matter with her, I could only guess. I am as far as ever from a solution now. The way the others received it, too, puzzled me. The last time we talked of the subject, we agreed that there was to be no more concealment of anything amongst us. Mina is sleeping now, calmly, sweetly, like a little child. Her lips are curved, and her face beams with happiness. Thank God, there are such moments still for her. Later. How strange it all is. I sat watching Mina's happy sleep, and came as near to being happy myself as I suppose I shall ever be. As the evening drew on, and the earth took its shadows from the sun sinking lower, the silence of the room grew more and more solemn to me. All at once, Mina opened her eyes, and, looking at me tenderly, said, Jonathan, I want you to promise me something, on your word of honor. A promise made to me, but made holily, in God's hearing, and not to be broken, though I should go down on my knees and implore you, with bitter tears. Quick, you must make it to me at once. Mina, I said, a promise like that I cannot make at once. I may have no right to make it. But, dear one, she said, with such spiritual intensity that her eyes were like pole stars. "It is I who wish it. It is not for myself. You can ask Dr. Van Helsing if I am not right. If he disagrees, you may do as you will. Nay, more, if you all agree, later you are absolved from the promise." "I promise," I said, and for a moment she looked supremely happy. Though, to me, all happiness for her was denied by the red scar on her forehead. She said, "Promise me, then, that you will not tell me anything of the plans formed for the campaign against the Count. Not by word, or inference, or implication. Not at any time, whilst this remains to me." And she solemnly pointed to the scar. I saw that she was in earnest, and said solemnly, "I promise." And as I said it, I felt that from that instant, a door had been shut between us. Later, midnight. Mina has been bright and cheerful all the evening, so much so that all the rest seemed to take courage, as if infected somewhat with her gaiety. As a result, even I myself felt as if the pall of gloom, which weighs us down, were somewhat lifted. We all retired early. Mina is now sleeping like a little child. It is a wonderful thing that her faculty of sleep remains to her in the midst of her terrible trouble. Thank God for it. For then, at least, she can forget her care. Perhaps her example may affect me as her gaiety did tonight. I shall try it. Oh, for a dreamless sleep. Yeah, Mina has been like the smartest person in the room for the entire damn book. It's actually kind of refreshing to see that, like, for when this was written, to have a female character be effectively as close to perfect as you can get for a character is very, very refreshing. Because remember, this is of an era where it's very much, oh no, she's hysterical, oh no. So, this is nice. We've got, like, the two paragons that we've got Mina, who is generally the smartest in the room and usually right about things, but is a victim of circumstances. And then we've got Van Helsing on the other side, who is the age-old source of wisdom and the authority, but also consistently makes mistakes. So, like, we get the dichotomy going on there. Sixth of October, morning. Another surprise. Mina woke me early, about the same time as yesterday, and asked me to bring Dr. Van Helsing. I thought that it was another occasion for hypnotism, and, without question, went for the professor. He had evidently expected some such call, for I found him dressed in his room. His door was ajar, so that he could hear the opening of the door of our room. He came at once. As he passed into the room, he asked Mina if the others might come too. "No," she said quite simply. "It will not be necessary. You can tell them just as well. I must go with you on your journey." Dr. Van Helsing was as startled as I was. After a moment's pause, he asked, "But why?" "You must take me with you. I am safer with you, and you shall be safer too."
"But why, dear Madam Mina? You know that your safety is our solemnest duty. We go into danger, to which you are, or may be, more liable than any of us from circumstances, things that have been."
He paused, embarrassed. As she replied, she raised her finger and pointed to her forehead. "I know. That is why I must go. I can tell you now, whilst the sun is coming up, I may not be able again. I know that when the Count wills me, I must go. I know that if he tells me to come in secret, I must come by wile, by any device to hoodwink, even Jonathan. God saw the look that she turned on me as she spoke. And if there be indeed a recording angel that look is noted to her everlasting honor. I could only clasp her hand. I could not speak. My emotion was too great for even the relief of tears. She went on. You men are brave and strong. You are strong in your numbers, for you can defy that which would break down the human endurance of one who had to guard alone. Besides, I may be of service, since you can hypnotize me and so learn that which even I myself do not know. Dr. Van Helsing said very gravely, Madam Mina, you are, as always, most wise. You shall come with us come, and together we shall do that which we go forth to achieve. When he had spoken, Mina's long spell of silence made me look at her. She had fallen back on her pillow asleep. She did not even wake when I had pulled up the blind and let in the sunlight, which flooded the room. Von Helsing motioned to me to come with him quietly. We went to his room, and within a minute, Lord Godalming, Dr. Seward, and Mr. Morris were with us also. He told them what Mina had said, and went on. In the morning, we shall leave for Varna. We have now to deal with a new factor, Madam Mina. Oh, but her soul is true. It is to her an agony to tell us so much as she has done. But it is most right, and we are warned in time. There must be no chance lost, and in Varna we must be ready to act the instant when that ship arrives. What shall we do exactly? Asked Mr. Morris laconically. The professor paused before replying. We shall, at the first, board that ship. Then, when we have identified the box, we shall place a branch of the wild rose on it. This we shall fasten, for when it is there, none can emerge. So, at least, says the superstition. Yes, hello, Zoe. And to superstition must we trust at the first. It was man's faith in the early, and it have its root in faith still. Then, when we get the opportunity that we seek, when none are near to see, we shall open the box, and all will be well. I shall not wait for any opportunity, said Morris. When I see the box, I shall open it and destroy the monster, though there were 1,000 men looking on, and if I am to be wiped out for it the next moment. I grasped his hand instinctively, and found it as firm as a piece of steel. I think he understood my look. I hope he did. Good boy, said Dr. Van Helsing. Brave boy. But Quincy, he's all man. God bless him for it. My child, believe me, none of us shall lag behind or pause from any fear. I do but say what we may do, what we must do. But indeed, we cannot say what we shall do. There are so many things which may happen, and their ways and their ends are so various, that until the moment we may not say. We shall all be armed in all ways, and when the time for the end has come, our effort shall not be lack. Now, let us today put all our affairs in order. Let all things which touch on others dear to us, and who on us depend, be complete. For none of us can tell what
or when, or how the end may be. As for me, my own affairs are regulate, and as I have nothing else to do, I shall go make arrangements for the travel. I shall have all tickets and so forth for our journey.
There is nothing further to be said, and we parted. I shall now settle up all my affairs of earth, and be ready for whatever may come. Later. It is all done. My will is made, and all complete. Mina, if she survive, is my sole heir. If it should not be so, then the others who have been so good to us shall have remainder. It is now drawing towards the sunset. Mina's uneasiness calls my attention to it. I am sure that there's something on her mind, which the time of exact sunset will reveal. These occasions are becoming harrowing times for us all. For each sunrise and sunset opens up some new danger, some new pain, which, however, may, in God's will, be means to a good end. I write all these things in the diary, since my darling must not hear them now. But if it may be that she can see them again, I shall be ready. She is calling to me.
And that is the end of chapter 24. And that'll be where we finish tonight's reading. So let me make a note here. We can run over a little bit to talk and reflect on that. But so yeah, this seems like a little bit, absolutely perfect timing. We hit that right at 10. But yeah, so it seems like this little reprise of the previous decision to exclude Mina was probably well thought out this time. And as she's sleeping through the day and coming awake in at the dusk, it definitely seems that she's falling more and more under the sway. Her fall is much faster than Lucy's was. I mean, Mina got the blood straight from Dracula, as opposed to just being slowly drained out, like Lucy was. So, it's happening much more quickly, much more completely. But, because Mina is the perfect, I won't say Mary Sue, because she seems to fall into a lot of trouble, but she is the very best of the lot. She's the Velma of this gang. She's sort of caught on to things. So, the separation is there, but also she's staying connected so that they can use her as a sort of a canary in the cage for what the Count is up to. And we are definitely approaching the end now. The Count has fled London, going back home to his castle in Transylvania, and the gang is going to go ahead. Remember that travel by sea is very slow in this time, and you're going from England around Gibraltar and up the Mediterranean into the Black Sea, and then over into Romania. So that's a long stretch by sea. Whereas by land, they just have to cross the channel, hop on a train, and get gone. So they'll be there waiting. And we'll see whether the climactic clash plays out as they might hope, whether it be just catching him in his box, or whether things will go horribly, horribly awry. I'm rather thinking it's the latter. It always is, isn't it? But yeah, so we now have 3 chapters remaining. Tomorrow we'll get through 2 of them. And I think, from my skimming ahead to map out what the way things were going to look, we are probably going to have a very busy Sunday with the last chapter. It's a long one, And it does seem that a lot is happening. I don't know whether it's the actual climax on Saturday or Sunday, but it seems like it's not just a boring resolution on Sunday. So, we have a lot to look forward to this weekend. We'll see how the end of Bram Stoker's Dracula comes together. Alright, with that, let's go ahead and call it an evening. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much for your patience with our schedule in the last week. We should be back to normal as of now, and we'll see where the books will take us from tomorrow. Until then, thank you very much for joining us. If you have not yet, I do ask that you go ahead and drop a like on the stream, maybe a subscription if you've not yet, and let Google know that we're doing fun things here. And with that little bit of shilling out of the way, have a wonderful night. Until tomorrow. Bye now.